Hey, everybody, and welcome to a very special episode of Set the Pace, presented by Peloton, the official podcast of New York Roadrunners. This is our 150th episode ever, and we are thrilled to be joined by an amazing live audience right here. Yes.
They beat me to it.
A great crowd here at the Hard Rock Café in Times Square, New York. And Becs joins me here. Hello, Becs. How are you?
Thank you. I'm great, thanks. This is so fun. I love when we do this with a live, rowdy, and I mean that in a great way. I'm English. When I say that, it's good. A rowdy audience. It's brilliant.
It's phenomenal. It gives us a special energy.
It does.
And, I can't believe we're now at 150 episodes of this podcast.
I know.
We just did our 100th episode, you'll recall, last March.
Yeah.
That was at the Public Theater. Now we're here with another live audience. And, think about what we've done in all of these episodes.
Right.
In 150 episodes, we've had, well, first of all, 9 Peloton instructors on the show.
Sorry about that, but they're fabulous.
We got one coming on today. That's a bit of a tease for later. We've had 15 marathon champions.
Yep.
From New York to Boston to the Olympic trials, Paris, London. We've had 12 Paralympic athletes on the show. We've had more than 100 New York Roadrunners members. Let's give it up for the members.
Very important.
Because we love those. We love the member moments, and we've had dozens of race directors, celebrities, athletes, inspiring runners. So it's been an amazing ride, and we've had so many great conversations. So I just think it's been a real pleasure to be a part of it.
It has. I feel like I've learnt a lot as well. That may sound strange, but even today's episode, I learned so much from our guest on today's podcast who we spoke to about things that we're involved with every day. I'm in the running world. Rob's in the running world. Organizations that you work with every day. And we learn things. So thank you for lending us your ears and the miles as well.
Yes. And thank you all, first and foremost, for listening. Some of you came up to me before the show and talked about how you listen to the podcast. We appreciate that. I get that at races all the time, and it means a lot because it's an ongoing conversation that we get to host that really is a conversation of and for the running community here in New York City and beyond. And we're just thrilled to get a chance to be the conveners of so many amazing people who run. So here we go.
Here we go.
We got a great episode coming up here today. I guess I should tease it, but first I'm going to talk about the Fred Lebow Half Marathon, which is coming up.
Fred or Ted?
Fred. It's the Fred Lebow Half. I never said Ted.
I did.
Someone, maybe it was you, once called him Ted Lebow.
It was me. Yeah. It was me.
Ted Metellus probably appreciated that.
Well, Ted Metellus was sitting next to me. That's why I said it. I got very confused, and then I felt like a fool.
Well, I'm sure Ted Metellus loved that. Any comparison or confusion with Fred Lebow is a good thing if you're the race director of the New York City Marathon. So, okay, who's running the Fred Lebow Half this weekend? Anybody? Let's hear some noise. Make some noise. All right, we got a good group of people. Of course, this race honors the Fred Lebow. It is the first half marathon of the year for us every year at New York Roadrunners. It is the race that I always give such props and respect to people who take this race on every year for so many reasons. First of all, it is the dead of winter. It is January.
Yeah.
When you signed up for this race last year, you have no idea what kind of weather you're going to be getting.
Summer, you're probably like, I'm feeling so fit and great and tan and woo! And then this week rolls around and you're like, ooh, boy.
You are not tan. You are not tan. You are not feeling great. So you could get a nice mild day. You could get a brutal day. You could get snow. A lot of things could happen.
A lot of bad days.
But one thing that we know you're going to get is 2 times around Central Park, including 3 times up Harlem Hill. 3 times up Harlem Hill, which is why I have never run the Fred Lebow Half. And so I really want to give props.
Year.
No, probably not next year. But I want to give props to everybody who is running. We hope we get good weather, and we know it's always a fun day honoring our great co-founder, Fred Lebow. So
will be. Good luck, everybody.
Good luck. All right, coming up on this episode of Set the Pace, we're going to have Hospital for Special Surgery's Cathy Wysin joining us to give us some advice about how to handle that Fred Lebow Half Marathon, including all those ups and downs and all those hills. And then later in the show, do you want to tease this, because this is a colleague of yours who we know you're excited to talk to?
Absolutely. Later in the show, we have an amazing colleague of mine who is a very well-rounded athlete. You may know him as possibly our tallest Peloton instructor. You may know him because of his short shorts that he wears, or wonderful legs.
Is that something to be known for, the short shorts?
Yes.
Is that a good thing? Okay. I guess if you've got the legs to pull it off.
You need to watch one of Alex's rowing classes because they aren't just shorts. Like, he turned up in denim-style shorts once. I will give him credit. He's an athlete. They weren't actually denim, but they looked like denim. Anyhow.
We're going to dig into that when it comes up.
Alex Karwoski will be with us to talk all things running, maybe a little rowing, and everything else that's happened for him quite recently, which has been a lot, everyone. Peloton is taking running and race tech to the next level with the new Peloton cross-training series Tread Plus, powered by Peloton IQ. Built for runners who want top-tier performance, the Tread Plus helps you train smarter and get race-ready with precision. Peloton IQ offers personalized insights that evolve as you progress, so you can fine-tune your pacing and peak at the right moment. And with strength workouts designed to build the muscle you need to support every mile, your training goes beyond the run. Plus, pace target classes designed to build consistency, boost speed, and improve your splits. Every single run supports your full training cycle, from recovery miles to challenging race pace intervals. Experience our most advanced tread yet at onepeloton.com. Peloton, the official digital fitness partner of New York Roadrunners.
Let's start with Cathy Wysin. She's a physical therapist, a DPT as well, from Hospital for Special Surgery, our great partners over at HSS. Cathy is a physical therapist with a passion for sports medicine and orthopedic injury rehabilitation, something that some of us know a little bit about in this room, injury rehabilitation. She competed in collegiate volleyball, coached at the high school and college levels, and she's an avid runner who's completed multiple marathons, including over 70 New York Roadrunners races. So how about a hand for Cathy Wysin?
Wow.
So, Cathy, you are no stranger to running New York Roadrunners races. You've run 72 since 2015. You're a six-star finisher, as we mentioned. How does this experience as a runner help you figure out how to fix runners and keep us from getting broken in the first place? Because that's really what you're here to talk about.
I mean, I would say with all that history, I've made a lot of mistakes. I've made a lot of errors with training. I've overtrained. I've done everything that they tell us not to do. I don't follow training plans. I don't respect tapering. I don't do strength training. And so all of that's actually have led to injuries and overuse injuries and either being sidelined or missing races or running injured. So I've done everything wrong. However, I think being a runner and being a physical therapist, I've really been able to share some of those experiences like, hey, here's why you have to strength train. Here's why you have to taper, because if you don't, you're going to be like me, sitting home and missing the race. Because at the end of the day, my philosophy is we want to get you to the start line healthy. We want to give you the best race. And being a runner really helps me relate to patients because I've been in your shoes. And just as I want to get out there to the next race, I want them to get out there to the next race.
That's very interesting. As a coach, I was covering my ears with all the things you don't do, but as a runner,
I've done everything wrong.
Absolutely.
I don't listen.
Hopefully just once, right? You've done them all wrong once, then you learned.
Just once.
That's the idea,
One
right?
handful of times.
Exactly.
But I hear you. I'm not exactly the same. There are some things, but I do find it's kind of sometimes easier to do as I say, not as I do in that situation. So with your experience, good and bad here, how would you get our runners to prepare for a race like the Fred Lebow? Because they're coming out of winter. We're hardcore in it right now. But they're coming after a holiday break. Well, maybe we took our foot off the gas. Maybe we tapered a little too early. Maybe we just haven't really done much about that injury that has been nagging us. It's a hilly course. That can exacerbate so much cardio, skeletal, muscular injuries. How would you tell people to tackle this?
I give them a lot of credit for running this race. I've never run it for all of those reasons. I think it's the only race I haven't run, but it's a really challenging course. So, I hate hills. One of the things I say is you really have to be mindful with running the hills. Make hills be your friend if you can. And so the biggest piece of advice I give is focus on your effort and not pace. So, your pace is likely going to slow down on the way up. So you want to focus on things like your breathing. How are you feeling? So whatever effort you're running at leading up to that hill, you actually want to continue that for the hill if you can on the way up. You're going to slow down. People are going to pass you, but it's okay because you're going to get to the top of the hill a little bit more energized, and then the bottom of the hill is going to kind of help you the rest of the way. So you really, I think in a race like this, because not only do you have to run the hills a couple times, you really want to focus on your effort so that you don't gas yourself out by the time you get to the top of the hill, because you've got a lot of hills to climb.
Yeah. So we all know that loop, right? You get to the top of Harlem Hill, you know you're there, right? You get a little bit of a chance to catch your breath. Then before you know it, you're going downhill, right? And it's interesting the different approaches people take to running downhill. Yeah. I have always been someone who runs very aggressively downhill. I let gravity do its thing. I do not hold myself back. I actually find that sometimes I lengthen my strides, and it does end up sometimes giving me decent results in hilly courses because I'm used to that method of getting up, recovering, going down. Is that recommended? What do you tell people to do on the downhill? We don't talk about that very much.
Be honest. Yeah. So I actually think going downhill is a lot harder than going uphill because you have to control going downhill. Gravity is really going to take you forward, and if you're not in control, you can actually set yourself up for expending way too much energy and possibly some injuries as well. So we really actually encourage people, slightly lean forward. A lot of people like to ease back and brake, and that's actually going to cause them to pound the pavement a little bit harder. So you really want to lean into gravity, lean into the hill. The other thing we tend to say is to try not to overstride. It's hard not to because you get to the top of the hill and you're like, yes, I'm just going to take off. But the other thing that can happen is if you really do overstride, sometimes you're kind of out of control. You can't really control things as much as you want, and you may end up landing more on your heels, and that puts a lot of pressure and force through those legs. So we tend to encourage, shorter strides, landing underneath you, a little bit of a faster cadence, leaning forward, arms kind of out to your side, and relaxing a little bit so that you can be in control. I think going downhill is so much harder because you really do want to let loose, but you really do have to stay a little bit of controlled.
Yep. I feel like you feel it more in your legs, your knees. If you have any residual knee pains from anything in the past, you're going to feel it more low back as well. That pounding, that if you're heel striking on the way down, you're overextending through your hamstrings. It's more likely to just feel that pop in the hamstring.
It's really easy to overstride and take off because I think for a lot of people, we're so mindful of the uphill and really focusing on effort. I think a lot of runners do that really well, but then we really want to take off on the downhill. People have passed us. I know I've done it. I want to pass everybody. But, you really can set yourself up for a little bit more injury, a little bit more discomfort if you, tend to overstride consistently and take off.
Yeah, that's me.
I've done it too. That's one of the mistakes.
It's funny. Sometimes it works for me. Sometimes it doesn't.
I'm the same way.
This is a good race to remember, though, that what goes down must go back up. So, you can't really gas yourself too much on the way down because you're going to go around that corner and there's
This is also why I've never run this race.
Yeah. Cathy, are there hill workouts that you recommend people do, whether it's getting ready for the Fred Lebow Half or obviously the NYC Half, which has no shortage of hills there either?
Yeah, I think, some of the easiest things you can do is start mixing in some hills throughout your regular runs. They don't have to be steep hills, but some gentle inclines. Anything where you notice there's a little bit of change into your terrain. Strength training is also going to be key here as well. I like to mix in some hill sprints. I don't love them, but I feel like they're beneficial. So I usually find a hill in my neighborhood. I do like a mile and a half warm up to the hill, a little bit of dynamic stretching, and then I do some 20 to 30 second hill sprints a couple times, jogging back down just to get my hill workouts in. But I really think it is beneficial, especially for your regular runs, not to run on all level terrain because most races aren't going to be on level terrain. So I think having some inclines, some hills throughout your regular runs is a great way to start getting acclimated to the up and down terrain. Yeah.
Are there any specific warm-ups that you would suggest that people might do ahead of a hilly race?
Yeah, I like a dynamic warm-up. So, maybe I usually do a mile jog, and then I do some butt kicks, some lunges, I do some hamstrings, skipping, high knees, just anything to really work quads and glutes, all of those larger muscle groups, calves, that are really what you're going to use to propel you up the hill, but also going to help you stay controlled on the way down.
All right, well, good luck to all you folks taking on the Fred Lebow Half or the United Airlines NYC Half. They're all, obviously challenging. It's a half marathon, so none of them are easy, but some are harder than others, and that's definitely a hard one. Okay, so Cathy, we're asking all of our guests this year to reflect on some memories of the marathon, because, of course, this year is the 50th anniversary of the 5-borough New York City Marathon. So we're going to ask you first. Take us back to your first memory of the New York City Marathon. You've run it 4 times. Where were you, and what do you remember seeing or feeling?
So I remember I ran it for the first time in 2016. In 2015, I ran the 5K, and I showed up at the expo to pick up my bib for the 5K. And I saw all these people there at the expo that looked just like me. And I'm like, well, if they can run the marathon, why can't I? So I finished my 9+1. I got in the following year, and I was so excited. I mean, it still gives me chills. It was my first marathon. It was my favorite marathon. And I just remember the week leading up, we did all the events with my parents. I remember race morning was amazing. We had perfect weather, and there was nothing like crossing the finish line. And then after that, I remember getting my medal engraved. And that's what started the whole 6-star thing. I went to the pavilion. I got my medal engraved. I got my New York Times with my name in there. I just thought it was so cool. I also couldn't get off the bench sitting outside of the pavilion, and had to call into work and was like, I'm stuck on a park bench. I don't know where my parents are. I can't come to work the next day. But I remember going in and getting my medal engraved. And my mom, who has since passed away, was like, it's just so amazing to do this. And she's actually the one who saw the 6-star finisher. And I'm like, what is that? That is a big, big medal. So that kind of started everything. And even though I've run all these other races, there's been nothing like crossing that first finish line. And the crowds in New York, there's nothing like them anywhere else.
Absolutely isn't. Talking of the crowds, out of the 5 boroughs, is there one specific borough that sticks with you from that day? Or any of the 4 times?
I would say probably Manhattan and First Ave, because that's where all my friends were. For me, I didn't really know what to expect on race day, so all I knew is I had to get to mile 16 on First Ave, because that's where everybody was.
Love that.
That's where the crowd is. I mean, there's crowds everywhere, but that crowd is special.
It's the most uplifting.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I agree.
Cathy, thank you so much for
Thank
joining
you
us on Set the
guys.
Pace, for getting our runners ready for the spring races ahead. Cathy Wysin from HSS, the Hospital for Special Surgery. New York Roadrunners is a nonprofit organization with a vision to build healthier lives and stronger communities through the transformative power of running. The support of members and donors like you helps us achieve our mission to transform the health and well-being of our communities through inclusive and accessible running experiences, empowering all to achieve their potential. Learn more and contribute at nyrr.org/donate. Our next guest is someone well known to all of our Peloton listeners out there, someone whose running life has expanded in multiple directions since he last joined us on Set the Pace, an episode which I was sad to miss. Alex Karwoski is a Peloton row instructor and an Olympic rower who represented the United States in the men's 8 at the Rio Games, and later served as an alternate for the Tokyo Olympics as well. And since he last appeared on this show in August of 2024, he's run the TCS New York City Marathon twice, added strong performances at the 2025 Fred Lebow Half and the United Airlines NYC Half. And this weekend, he'll toe the line again for his second Fred Lebow Half in Central Park. Ladies and gentlemen, let's hear it for Alex Karwoski.
And he's wearing trousers, everyone. He's wearing
trousers.
trousers.
No mention of the shorts this time. No. Thank you very much. Thank you. It's very, very fun to be here.
I can't believe it's been 2 years, or 2 marathon cycles, since you've been on the podcast. That's kind of absurd to me. So let's talk about that 2 years. We have a rivalry, if you don't know, by the way. So
it's very kind for you to say it's a rivalry, because
yeah, because you started it.
Right. And I told you, I said, I'm going to try and beat you. And you said, okay. And there was no oh gosh, like what's your plan? You were just like, okay. And I think in your mind you knew I wasn't going to, and haven't been able to, just for the record, despite getting close.
Both times, very, very close.
Neither time we're close. And
How close?
This year I was 39 seconds away from her New York PR. That's a second and a half. It's a long way.
That's close.
It's a long way.
That's pretty close, though. Pretty impressive.
The first one wasn't all you either. You dropped your fuel. So that was a bit of a rookie move, buddy.
You're not making this sound like a real rivalry. You're supposed to be. Becs was the first person I saw both times crossing the finish line. And both times
I've been there tracking him going, he's going to do it, he's going to do it, he's going to do it.
The first year was a little scarier because the medical team was asking if I needed to be picked up and all this. And Becs was my savior. She said, he's fine. He's fine. He just needs to get up. And then you came over and you're like, you need to get up. You need to get up right now. You're not getting carted away. And I was like, yeah, I'm okay. This year I
knew
did.
He would be really upset if he got popped in a wheelchair and carted off the finish line, even though we were looking a bit peaky and
carted off finish line, all that, and lost.
Yeah. I know I wasn't the person you wanted to see in that moment. But I was there working and was like, I'm gonna try and just be like, do you know what your name is? I didn't beat you, I'm so sorry. He apologized. I was like, shh, okay. Medics, I got this. But it's a healthy rivalry and something we love to banter about. But you are incredibly talented as an athlete when it comes to any sport you put your mind to. We're blessed to have you at Peloton from rowing to bring your experience from your decades of time on the water, which is wild to me. Why you go out on the water for that long is nuts, but anyway.
Well, there's a lot of talk about the hills, Fred Lebow and all this. There are no hills in rowing. It's flat. Sometimes the water gets choppy, but again, no incline. Very difficult to ever row up a hill. So just saying, throwing it out there.
Yeah, okay. So let's talk about how you've brought a little bit of rowing to running, and how has that crossover been? Because a lot of our runners, a lot of our members weren't runners forever. Like, show of hands, how many of you quite changed your path to running? Yeah, me, I definitely did. Yeah, we haven't all been lifelong collegiate runners. How, for you, did you navigate that change from water to land? No one's ever said that to you before, have they?
It's like you changed species or something.
Right.
Went from a fish to a mammal. How's that been for you?
I lost the tail and, the webbed feet. No, I think there's something interesting about running, especially endurance running. Shorter races, the pain spikes. And yes, you suffer, but you suffer for a little bit of time. And then it stops, whether that's the mile, Fifth Ave mile, wonderful race. You get really excited. That first little bit is downhill. Then you realize, there's a little bit of an uphill. You suffer for a little bit, and it's done. Endurance running, half marathons, 10K, half marathons, obviously the marathon. Similar to rowing, and I'm not sure that this is because rowing has any long-distance races, but the training for rowing is not terribly enjoyable. And that doesn't mean it's not fun, right? Because I think we often conflate enjoyment with pleasure, as opposed to it's satisfying to suffer through and then experience the joy. That's kind of that like satisfying feeling of having made it through the struggle. And I would say that's the big thing. The rowing training translates to endurance running because you do a lot of it. You're trying to repeat, do the same thing over and over again. A rowing race, 2,000 meters, you take, depending on your stroke rate, but you take between 220 and 240 strokes. I did the math real quick. In a marathon, if your cadence is about 180, if your stride cadence is 180, and you are trying to beat Becs, you'll take just over 27,000 strides. So again, trying to do the same thing over and over again. I like numbers. I like that. So yeah, that's the crossover.
You and Wilps are such nerds. It's amazing. Numbers.
It makes sense, though. It makes sense that someone coming from that background would be very numbers focused.
Oh my gosh.
So I think what I just heard you say is that training for a marathon is kind of pleasurable compared to training for an Olympic boat race. Is that accurate?
There's definitely less selection process. Getting in is one thing. I've been very fortunate to be able to get into these races. But yeah, you train being in the training center for 11 years like I was. You have teammates, and they're wonderful. And then you have friends, and then you have the guys who like actually make it through, and you're on the team together. And it's different than when you're in college and there's a JV and a 3V and all that. When you're training for the Olympics, once the team is named, you lose half of your teammates. So even if they were your friends, all that, it's like, see you next fall or whenever that is. So running doesn't have that. The marathons don't have that. And part of why I love the Fred Lebow so much and learning more about him is that his big thing when he started New York Roadrunners, going all the way back, running in the 60s, distance running, it was this weird, speaking of short shorts, there you go.
There we go.
Short shorts were in effect back in those days, for
very
sure.
much so, and great hair. I'm very jealous of a lot of that, late 60s, early 70s flow.
Where we're going with this hair.
Frank Short, Bill Rogers, all those guys.
Summer Alex loading.
I think I have a little more upper body heft than those guys did too. But a lot of that kind of early stage running stuff was just going out there and seeing what you could do. And so the fact that running the marathon, running these half marathons, it's everyone who's out there, whether you're trying to beat Becs and break 2:37 or break 4 hours, whatever it is, there's something about you're all on the same team. And I love getting to talk to people about their running journeys, their running experience, because I don't think the speed difference makes it not feasible to be teammates in that way.
Yeah, I agree with that. It's
Yeah, it makes
community.
sense. I love it. When I meet someone like you, Alex, who obviously is a gifted athlete, right? I mean, I didn't have to read your bio to know that just from watching you walk in. And then I see these, times, right? And I mean, your first marathon was the 2024 TCS New York City Marathon, right? 2 hours, 44 minutes, 15 seconds. Okay, first marathon. Then you decided to get fast, and you ran the next one in 2:37:40. So it really does, speak to me about, the fact that there are people who just have these gifts, right? It's an athletic gift that you have. You obviously honed it in the boat, right? The endurance. I'm sure your lung capacity, your VO2 max must be insane. Do you know what it is?
I took Becs was lucky, I was lucky to have Becs set me up with a running VO2. It was a little lower than my rowing VO2, but I'm old now, so it's not that. Compared to these new athletes, it's.
So you've got this capacity, this endurance, right? And it's amazing. Like, did you know when you decided to start running that you would be this good this quickly? It sounds like you did because you're already challenging Becs.
It's very kind of you to say I'm this good. I want to be clear. I lost to a lot of people in these marathons, and I love reading the paper the next day and seeing the list, and they print all of that. And I guess this is maybe a testament to some of my rowing, like I said, teammates and friends. Some of my rowing friends, I got pictures of my name in the paper, and they're like, "Yo, you weren't even top 300. Like, you were really far back." And they've never run a marathon or anything, but so I guess I like that. The challenge of completing a marathon, the challenge of training for a marathon, all of those things that are so challenging, it's fun to see if you can do it. And again, I'm very fortunate, very lucky to work at Peloton, where it would be weird if I were showing up to work and like, oh, I don't really feel like working out today. But like, what are you doing here? So getting
that could threaten your job security, I imagine.
Very true. But yes, I feel lucky to get to challenge myself in this running way.
Yeah, it is. It's something that grips you. I think from rowing, the displeasure of a 2K. I've never done one on the water, but I can only imagine having tried to do one on land, on a rowing machine, by the way, not just a run. It's not fun, but that pain, pleasure situation got you hooked. So let's talk about the half versus the full. You've done a few halves now. You're coming back this weekend for your second time at Fred Lebow.
The best race in New York,
okay,
hands
so
down.
Hands down. He says this, and again, this is like Alex to a nutshell. It's the dead of winter, and he is like, yes, let's go. Like, why?
What could possibly be more New York City running than Central Park? Not just 2 laps and change, but the hardest 13.1 miles you could run in Central Park, Fred Lebow, like all of it just screams the best. And it is. And you can take the subway there, you can take city bike up there, you can obviously take a cat, whatever it is. And then you're in the park. Last year, I don't know if this is too much information, but I biked up. I had worn my warm stuff over. I took it off, I hid it behind a rock, and I was fully prepared for it to not be there afterwards. I did my warm-up loop in the
we have baggage check, right?
Yes, but
that's an option.
It feels like, okay, who's going to be out here on late January scoping for weird, sweaty sweatpants and a thing? And
now you've said that, there's going to be a whole fan page going
I will be wearing the same ones as last year.
Yeah, look for Alex's stuff.
But it's such a fun race. There's a couple thousand people, which I know pales in comparison to 59,000 and change that run the TCS New York City Marathon. But it's just one of those weekends, one of those mornings that, and last year it was nice. I've done it exactly once, and now this will be the second time. But I don't know, I felt very lucky to be doing what I was doing with these people in the park. And there were other people in the park that weren't running the race that were like, yeah, go for it. Like, yeah, this is your second lap. And like, they're not really paying attention, but they are tuned in to what's happening. So it's the best. Yeah.
I love the enthusiasm. That is phenomenal. And by the way, as impressive as your marathon times are, 1:15:21 was his time in the Fred Lebow Half last year. Arguably more impressive, I think, actually, a time like that going around Central Park. So what's your approach to the Fred Lebow Half? How do you attack it? We were just talking with our friend from HSS about how to handle the hills. You made the joke there are no hills in rowing. So how do you approach the hills in running? Do you go full steam up the hills? Do you kind of like just try to survive and advance? What do you do?
Survive and Advance, another great documentary. I'd say Run for Your Life, the Fred Lebow documentary, about wonderful. If you have 96 minutes to spend, I don't think you can spend it better. I recently rewatched it. I watched it last year. Rob, I'm with you. I like going up the hill and then getting to the top. And just as everyone's taking that slight pull back of the throttle, you're like, screw it. I don't need these knees or these quads.
Attack!
That was my goal last year, and it worked great for the first, well, this was for the marathon. It worked great for the first 15 and a half miles. Turns out those last 10 and a half also count. So in the Fred Lebow, which was, of course, just over 2 months after that 2024 marathon, I tried to be a little more, not conservative, but aware of what I was doing from an energy expenditure. And Cathy talked about it, of relying on effort going up the hills, and then simultaneously going downhill, effort-wise. You can go a lot faster, and your breathing, just keep that. And yes, don't go the overbounding so that you slam your quads and all of that, especially as a larger runner, I would say. Overstriding definitely hurts. But on those uphills, register your pace, and then similarly on the downhills, you can go faster and be mindful of how much faster it's going to give you.
There we go. I remember last year you did a couple of tune-up runs in the park. And again, this is Alex, numbers guy. He knows his pace by the second, by the feel. And you basically did 2 laps, I think, like a couple of weeks before the Fred Lebow last year. And you were like, I've got this. He was so... You were just dialed. You were so dialed in of like, this is going to be great. And it was. You did fantastically well in that race, but you'd practiced it. You'd gone out there, and it says a lot of like, you have to show up to practice what you're going to go in to do your best at. You can't just practice on flat road or little hills. A bump in the road isn't a hill, especially not Harlem Hill. And you proved that. You were out there most weekends being like, I am going to get on this damn course, and I am going to do loops of this treacherous course. So I'm so prepared when it comes to it, because if you've never done it before, you're going to go around a couple of those bends in Central Park. You're going to think those hills are done, and you're going to be so mad when you turn the corner and that hill keeps going.
Yeah, the whole east side is...
The whole east side.
Yeah.
Vile. But have you done something like that this year? Have you... Like, what was from the TCS New York City Marathon to the Fred Lebow time zone, considering you've had a rather large life change in that time? He's a new dad, everybody.
To be clear, I did very little work. Just my wife gave birth. Yes.
The work's now. The work has been the last 2 months.
I think the nice thing about running, especially running in New York, is getting up early in the morning. You know the routes to go, over to the West Side Highway, up, cross in, go into the park. And one of the biggest differences, I'm just going to sidestep the whole having a kid now because he's a blob, so I can't take him for runs. He helps with some of the scheduling purposes, but otherwise he's a consumer right now.
Have you done the stroller push around the park yet?
Not yet. He's still working on his head.
Still too tiny, right?
Oh, gosh.
Head's bobbing around.
It's embarrassing. He's 2 months and isn't reading, isn't walking. We'll get there. I have all the stats. We're doing diaper tracking. We're doing weights.
Baby weights.
But from a running standpoint, so much of my training difference from last year to this year was getting to the course. Also including the marathon course, doing the Queensboro Bridge multiple times. One of the best and worst workouts I've ever done was a 10 by Queensboro Bridge, over and back, and then jog back. It was a long run. However, and I know there's an upcoming question, so I'm maybe ruining this, but my favorite borough this year was Queens, because getting to the bridge,
and we see why.
very few spectators / no spectators when you're on the bridge.
Yeah.
And the collective sigh of pain and misery of the group that I was with gave me this, and this is, again, going to paint me, but I do wear fun short shorts. Like, I'm a fun guy. Their collective sigh of, and just, I could feel it, gave me such a boost. And I was like, oh, man, I know exactly what this bridge is going to be like. And it was so exciting to be on that bridge doing that. The final mile and a half where I knew I wasn't going to beat Becs, I was like, man, I should have stayed with those guys. I should have acted up. But in that moment, Queensboro Bridge, love it.
You know, people have very different reactions to that stretch of the marathon. We've got people who say it almost ended their marathon and people who kind of get a boost from it. You know, there's different ways to approach that. So glad you're a fan. That's a beautiful thing. So you're now not just teaching at Peloton on the rowers, but you started teaching on the tread as well. You've joined Becs in the tread teaching community. What's that like for you? How do you translate what you've learned as a fairly new runner to the people who are now running with you on the tread at Peloton?
I just copy all of Bex's programming and I make it slightly harder. No, that's not true. It's way easier. Bex's classes, I just took a 60-minute class of yours today, and it's great.
He moves swiftly on.
I find that part of the major appeal of the Peloton platform is, in general, is that even when you're by yourself, alone on the treadmill, I've tried running with my brother, 2 people on one treadmill. It was an XL one. I don't recommend it. Not a safety thing at all. When you're alone on not the Peloton tread, when you're alone on a treadmill, but you're taking a Peloton class, regardless of whether or not it's live and there's people there, there's that leaderboard there. And getting to see the other people's metrics, not from a competitive standpoint, just from a shared suffering, being in that moment of, this isn't fun, I'm not having fun, they're telling me to go to 4% incline, we're 26 minutes into this class, why am I doing this? It dulls that why question because you know these other people are doing it too. And that's what I've tried to bring, at least somewhat, to my coaching, teaching, instructing on the Peloton tread. I don't know if I've gotten it to the level that others have, but that idea of, yes, you're doing this by yourself, and no, I am not going to change the knobs for you and force you to do anything, but we are together in some way.
That's a beautiful way of putting it. Well done. They can use auto as well, where it does actually do it for you. Anyways, not a sales pitch. It's funny you said that you copy my classes, because since you came on the podcast, I've joined rowing, and I copy all of your classes on rowing, so there we go.
No hills. There's nothing. There's no knobs to change in rowing. You're just effort. Yeah.
No, but talking of the crossover, how do you compare the training when it comes to? It's very different. I think outside rowing, obviously, it sounds so silly of me to say that, but whatever.
On the water.
On the water, thank you, to indoor rowing. But there is still a big disparity between outdoor running and indoor running. So when it comes to you, for your training, your real life running versus your Peloton running, your real life rowing versus your Peloton rowing, how is that now square of disciplines working for you as a coach and as an athlete?
I know Rob's mentioned this. I do love numbers. I love the data and the indoor training, winter months, spending time on the tread. It's one thing to be outside with your watch, and yes, you can have markers, and part of the reason I love Central Park is because you know these distances so well, so you can almost not rely on the GPS, and you can just look at the time and know your splits. Being on the treadmill, being on an indoor rowing machine, a lot of crossover in the time, your split, your pacing, your stroke rate. I know we don't have a stride sensor or anything yet. There's nothing in the works there. I'm sorry. I just wish there were. Maybe I could make the future if I say it into existence. But being able to have all of that right there and contained makes a big difference for especially endurance distance training.
I'm going to totally go off topic, as I sometimes do on this podcast, because I'm just really curious. What's it like in the boat? What's it like? How many guys were in the boat with you in the Olympics?
8.
8. So
Yep.
that's the big boat. That's the biggest boat they have in the Olympics, right?
It is. Yeah.
So what is that like? You're in this. You got 8 guys who all have to row perfectly in sync, pretty much, right? If you're out of sync, something's going to go wrong, typically, right? Do you have a sense in the middle of a race of how it's going? I mean, can you see all the other boats and where you are compared to them and what is that experience like? I mean, somebody's yelling at you, stroke. You got to make sure that's the what are they called again?
The coxswain.
The coxswain.
Yep.
Thank you.
Yep.
Yes. What is that like?
Okay, being in the 8 at the Olympics, coming in 4th. Did I know we were going to get 4th at the start? No. Did I know we weren't going to win at the 1,000-meter mark? Yes. So when your coxswain's telling you, and their job is tough because in rowing, so there's sweep rowing and sculling. Sweep rowing is one person, one oar, so I'm a starboard, I go this way. The smallest boat in sweep rowing, we don't have time to do a history of rowing.
Curious.
I'm so
it's
sorry.
Interesting. So when you were in the boat, you had one oar
I am
you were
yes, so the
responsible for?
8, the sweep rowing is the pair, the 4, and the 8. So obviously you have a port and a starboard in the pair, 2 ports, 2 starboards in the 4, 4 and 4 in the 8.
I do know this. Port is left. Starboard is right.
There you go.
That's the one thing I know. Thank you very much.
No, that is
Did
absolutely
you know they
correct.
had that in
I'm
a
done
rowing
for the
boat,
podcast.
though?
I'm finished. What's that?
Did you know they had that in a rowing boat, though?
I guess I knew. In all boats, I guess I thought they had that. But yeah.
not.
Port and, yeah.
All right, so you got one. Which side is your oar on?
I rowed on starboard side.
Okay,
so
got
my
it.
blade went out, my oar went out to the right side of the boat.
Mm-hmm.
To your question about being in sync and all of that, yes. And I was given the book, The Boys in the Boat. It's a well-known rowing boat now.
Great book.
Rowing book. Great book. I was given that book 4 times before I finally read it. Nothing against the story, all that. University of Washington, still the most dominant men's rowing program in the country. Phenomenal coaching staff. A lot of Olympians have come out there. The least impressive thing that Joe Rance did, and this is hopefully not going to get me canceled, the least impressive thing that guy did in his life was win the Olympics. His life story from the book, I mean, from being abandoned by his family, his house burning down, he built the Ganges Dam, and for 75 cents a day instead of 35 cents a day, he jackhammered off the side of this thing. In that book, I'll bring it around. In that book, and a lot of people who rode in that era, and then even 60s and 70s, they talk about this feeling of swing. And we were losing by 2 lengths, which is an egregious amount to be losing by, and in a rowing race. And then they say, we found our swing and took a power 10 and we won the race. That's impossible. That just doesn't happen, right? 2 lengths is 60, so you're talking over 100 feet of you were down. In 10 strokes, you can't, because the other boat didn't stop. So it always bothered me. However, in a good rowing boat, which in my career, it happened exactly one time. It was the 2018 World Championships heat. Why it couldn't have happened in the final and we could have won that race is beyond me. But we won the heat and set a World Championships best time, fastest American 8 ever. But again, well, yeah. We got 4th at the World Championships, so maybe...
Bad timing.
In that moment, that feeling of swing, there's this sense of I can't not stay within the rhythm that is being set. And I was not in the stern of the boat, I was up in the bow, so I could see everyone. And it didn't matter what I did at that point. I was simply looking down and just doing my job. And that's that feeling of swing. And I think it happens in running as well, not necessarily with other people, but with yourself. Sometimes you're like, this pace is incorrect, but I'm just going to just keep moving.
Yeah, that we call it sometimes the runner's high, right? That feeling that you can just keep going and you feel great. Yeah, it's a great feeling. And so that's good to know. There's something kind of similar to that in rowing. Do you think that rowing is a good cross-training for runners, especially if, right now, for instance, I'm dealing with an injury, right? So the impact is not my friend right now, right? But do you think that most runners, whether they're recovering from an injury or just want to cross-train, would benefit from some time on a rowing machine?
I mean, obviously I'm biased. I have to say yes. But even if I didn't work at Peloton and row on the machine, rowing as a low-impact cardio exercise, and yes, there is this strength component. A lot of people, and I saw someone here in the front say rowing, and it's like this, because it'd be weird to say rowing and use your legs and body. However, it is primarily a lower leg, lower body, and then coordinated upper body movement. And the crossover between using your legs at the same time, it's not left, right, it's pushing together. It does give you that more stability and stable lower half, which does, I think, give you that, I don't want to say confidence, but the spinal engine that you need to be able to stabilize and coordinate stride to stride, being able to produce that power quickly, that ground contact time. That is something that rowing, low impact, but with high power, can give you.
There we go. You heard it here first. Well, not if you take his classes, but on the podcast. Okay, let's talk about your life, you as a non-athlete person. As we know, he loves numbers. I will call him a self-professed nerd. You are a highly intelligent human. You are one of the first people I go to learn a lot from. You love structure. And that's why you and Wilps get on so well. But now you have your child in your life, you're in Ava's life. What is structure for you going into this 2026, into this year of training? How is your structure shifting and adapting to the structure that you used to know for your training?
I don't think my wife's going to listen to this podcast, so that's okay. Or maybe I'll steer her away. There are a few non-negotiables for me when it comes to myself, and this is something I've talked about with coaches and teammates and family members and other people. Rowing was a very selfish endeavor. And I know what you're thinking. Wow, he seems like such an affable, wonderful guy, and just
selfless. If
yes,
that was the first word that came to mind, absolutely, yeah. How could that be?
Running marathons, training for marathons, to me is yet another selfish thing to do. Not that it's a bad selfish thing, and this is where again I think people conflate, like, oh, they're a selfish person, so they must be terrible. I think the people that know what they want to be selfish about and are willing to say, nope, sorry, this is my time, I need it for me. Now, hopefully that's not in the middle of the day when you have other responsibilities going on, which I'm learning is a coordinated effort between parents and setting the schedule. And when you said you'd be home at 2:45 and it's now 2:47, well, it's not 2:45. To me, that has helped structure a lot of my training, and it's been exactly 9 weeks. So in the last 9 weeks, aside from a slight medical setback, which was not running related, I've been able to adhere to the new training schedule and stay selfish in the moments I need, and hopefully be a little more selfless with my time when I'm then not training and doing that, being able to separate the two better.
Yeah, I like that.
It's something that we talk about a lot. Becs, you went through that when you were doing your insane amount of training for the great world race, right? You've got a partner, you've got a child or children, and figuring out how to do that quote-unquote selfish thing. And you're right. I mean,
your partner doesn't maybe feel like they're getting a whole lot out of your running a marathon, or you're running 7 marathons on 7 continents in 7 days, right? So how do you find a way to make that work for the partnership, divide and conquer? And it's a challenge, I think, for a lot of people who are doing this stuff.
Yeah. It's when you pray for their naps to go for longer and longer. You'll be like, 3 months, 1 nap schedule, great, let's do it. Sleep for 5 hours, dude, let's go.
Yeah, go to sleep. No, yeah.
Talk a little bit more about your passions, though, because I think our listeners would like to know the fun Alex. You're a fun guy.
The shorts. Yeah.
Not just the shorts. Talk about the other things you like to do, like Lego and...
This is a
you
very
like Lego?
I
My
love,
kids love Lego.
Okay. I have a number of unboxed Lego sets in my apartment. It's difficult to have the appropriate display space in a New York City apartment to put Rivendell as it should be displayed. Right? That was a gift.
That's impressive.
Well, it's not built.
Oh,
and
okay.
this gets to my point of a selfish thing. See, now I know the amount of joy that I will derive from building that Lego set. But if I wait, there's joy waiting in there for hopefully me and my son, or maybe he won't be interested, me and a friend to build that. That's how I justify having so many unbuilt Lego sets in my apartment. But yes, I love Lego. I enjoy good history books. I just watched also the Turn Every Page with Robert Caro and his editor. I'm blanking on his name, and I realized that I have yet to finish the first volume of the LBJ, The Path to Power, and it was supposed to be a 3-volume series, and now, of course, it's a 5-volume, which hopefully, knock on wood, Robert Caro will finish the 5th volume before anything happens to that New York City legend of a man. Some of my best training runs are while listening to podcasts, audiobooks, things like that, and it's one of those... Not that you really need to focus on the run, but when you're really focused on something else, but you are running, it's easier to kind of disassociate from the displeasure and pain, which I know you asked about hobbies, so I guess the displeasure and pain is not hand in hand with the Lego building, but there's something there about putting in the time.
So you don't know.
Right. Putting in the time to achieve something is fun. And,
yeah.
All right, so we're doing this thing where we ask all of our guests something about the 2026 TCS New York City Marathon. So first question for you is, what's your first memory of the New York City Marathon? First time you saw it, thought about running it. What do you remember?
First true memory of any New York City Marathon was 2022. I had moved here, came from the Tokyo Olympics, got to New York 5 days before school started. I was going back to graduate school, and that year was just kind of a weird transition, so I don't remember much, and we weren't here for the marathon that year. 2022, I was working at Peloton at this point, fortunate enough to be there. There was a Peloton cheer zone. I wasn't running it. I hadn't really been running really at all. I was still rowing very much. My first memory was of the New York City Marathon was watching the elite women run by and being mesmerized by just the rhythm, the formation they had, and I forgot to clap. Like, I was just watching them, and luckily I was in the Peloton cheer zone, so I didn't look like this doofus on the side of Fifth Avenue where we were at the time, and I was just in awe of these people. And then I looked around, and everyone was smiling and cheering, and that sense of, I now tell people, Sunday, New York City Marathon Day, the subways are always on time. Everything smells incredible. People are smiling like everything is better in New York, even though you know it's not, but it is. And it all goes back to that first time seeing those people, seeing those elite women run by, and me just being blown away by people are doing this. And not only that, everyone that's on the side is rooting for them to do well. No one's going, oh, I hope they trip. It's like, what? Like, no, like everyone, whether you're running the marathon in 2 hours and 8 minutes or 5 hours and 38 minutes, it's like, yes, it is just a wonderful, wonderful day.
Yeah, I agree.
All right, you mentioned the Queensboro Bridge. So Queens, your favorite borough, or is there another one you want to
give some love to?
I feel like Staten Island gets such a bum deal in the 5-borough marathon because it is obviously the borough where people spend potentially the most time if you're there and all that.
Yes.
And yet, from a running standpoint, the least amount of the marathon, the fewest number of meters are spent in Staten Island. So I do have a very fond memory now, having done it exactly twice, standing at the start line, looking at the bridge with few people in front, and just going, this is wild. We're gonna run across this bridge here and get going, and this is just what a treat, what a gift. So
that's a great acknowledgement of the under-loved borough.
Yes, we appreciate some love for Staten Island. Hey,
Staten
it wouldn't be a
Island and
5-borough
Queens.
marathon without Staten Island. So
Exactly.
we thank them. We thank you, Alex Karwoski.
Yes.
Thanks for coming on.
Thank you
Good
very
to
much.
see
Thank you for having
You
me.
better be running a 2:36 this year, mister.
The challenge
There's no
is
rivalry.
thrown.
It's all friendship. It's just, no.
Thank you, Alex.
Thank you.
Good
Thank you.
luck with that baby as well.
Appreciate it.
Keep going. All right, well, Bex, we did it.
We did it.
150 episodes.
Holy moly. How did that happen? Yes. All our listeners. All thanks to you guys, because without you, we wouldn't be able to do this. So thank you for
100%.
listening to us.
It's so much fun. We love having you all here. It's so gratifying to me when we first started talking about this at New York Roadrunners, and I said to our team, let's have a podcast, and here we are, 150 of them later, and people showing up to live events like this to check it out. So it's very gratifying to me, and I hope it is to you guys as well. Bex couldn't do it without you, so thank you.
Thank you for having me as your co-host.
All right. Thanks you all for coming. Thanks for listening out there. Remember, rate it, subscribe, do all the things, and we'll see you next week. Enjoy the miles.